Okay, so we're going to make it so we can create a new idea through the form, but there's something I want to address before we do that. Because since we're getting data now, if I make a change, like for instance, we don't even need the modal and idea list variables because we're not using them. We just need to instantiate the modal and idea list, so we can get rid of those. Now, if I save, notice that I don't see the ideas anymore, and I get this connection refused. If I reload, everything's okay. Now, the reason that's happening is because we're running the backend with NodeMon. We're doing our npm run dev. So what I want to do is go to the backend here, where we're listening on 5000 and stop. And then instead of doing run dev, let's do npm start. That way it doesn't keep reloading and messing things up. So now if I go back to the front end and I make a change, like put those two variables back, you'll see it doesn't do that. Okay. But it's up to you if you want to keep the variables or not. I'm going to just get rid of them since we're not using them. And now let's move on to this. We want to submit this form and then reach out to our back end. And we're going to do that through the API file. So let's add a method here and call it create. We'll say create idea, and it's going to take in a data object. And we're going to make post requests, and we're going to return the response from that. So let's say return axios.post, and then pass in the URL. So this dot underscore API URL. And then we also, of course, want to send the data. And that data is going to come from the form. So let's save this. Now let's go into idea form, because right now when we submit, we're constructing the idea, but we're not doing anything else. We're just logging it, clearing the forms, and then closing the modal. So I want to bring in, we're going to bring into idea form the API service. So let's say import ideas API from /services/ideas API. And then what we'll do is down here in the handle submit, I actually want to make this asynchronous because now we're dealing with a promise. And then right under where we created our idea, we can get rid of the console log. We know that that's working. We know we're getting the data. Let's say const new idea. And I'm going to set that to await on the ideas API dot and then create idea. And then we're going to pass in that idea object. All right, so I think, yeah, that should work, at least for the server side. Let's go ahead and save. And now we're going to add, let's say username. We'll just say Brad. And then what's your idea? I'm just going to say this is a test. Tag, we'll say business. And let's submit. Okay, let me just open up my console here. So reference error, ideas API is not defined. Oh, this should be uppercase. All right, let's try that again. And again, this error here is just from LastPass, so you can completely ignore that, and you won't get that unless you're using LastPass. Okay, so I submitted it. I don't see it here, but if I reload, it shows up. So basically what happened was I submitted the form, it reached out to the server. Okay, so we called create idea. It added the idea through the API to the database, but the DOM didn't update. I had to reload to be able to see it. So what I want to do is in the idea list, which is this component here, I want to have a method that will add an idea to the list. And we can call that after we add it to the server. So let's go right under get ideas, and let's create, we'll say add idea, or let's call it add idea to list, just to be more clear. And we're going to pass in idea. Then all we're going to do is take this dot underscore ideas, which is our array of ideas, and we're going to push onto that the new idea. Now, after doing that, we have to re-render the component. So we're going to say this dot render. Now what we can do is go back into our idea form, and right after this, so this line, this will we'll say add idea to server, and then this one will add idea to list. Now we do have to bring in idea list, so let's say import idea list, and we do have to instantiate this because it's a class and we want to create an object. So in the constructor, let's say this dot underscore idea list equals new idea list. And then we can come down here and we'll say this dot underscore idea list, and we're going to call add, what do I call it? Yeah, add idea to list. Now, when we get this back, this is from our post requests, we're going to have the response, and then in data is where we get our data. So it'll be like this, new idea dot data. Now that will give us the whole object that's returned. Remember, I return a success true and then a data value with the actual ideas. So I have to do dot data again to get those ideas. All right, now let's save that. Let's try to add another one. We'll say, I don't know, Jane Doe. We'll say this is another test. Tag, we'll say education. And there we go. So now it gets added to the list right after it gets added to the server. And if I reload, it's going to be there. It's still going to be there because then we're fetching them from the server. All right, so in the next video, I want to start to think about the username because I want to be able to save that in local storage and pre-fill the form with it. So we'll do that next.